I'm a woman. I can't do this. Oh, they won't like me. I'm ugly. Look, I have a pimple. Look at my wrinkles. I'm stuck. I don't deserve it. I should stay home so no one sees me. I can't get dressed. I can't decide what to wear. No, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. I can't get dressed. Can't decide what to wear. No, I'm going back to bed. I can't. I am not worthy. You aren't gorgeous. I'm a magnet to good things. You are successful. You can do this. You deserve this. You're a leader. You're worthy. You are kind and generous. I am abundant to all that I do. I can change anything, and I can do this. With Empowered in Heels.
For you today, I am so delighted to be on Empowered in Heels. It's our second year of Empowered in Heels, and we are just so ecstatic to meet these wonderful ladies out there. So I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up about myself. I'm Suzy Tamasy, your TV host for Empowered in Heels. I am an editor of two magazines, one called Empowered in Heels magazine, and that's where the show originated from. And it's inspiring stories of women that have gone through trauma in their life and have succeeded to be successful. And it's like showing the light out of the end of the tunnel. My other magazine is Biz and Fashion, which is a component of business and a fashion at the same time. So it intertwines the serious matter to the fun matter. And I am owner of a clothing line called Suzy Q Jewels, in which we donate to women's shelters across Ontario with our fundraising events, and proceeds, 20% go to them. So I am so delighted to have an amazing guest. I had a great experience 3 years ago when I moved to Oshawa, and I dealt with the executive airport. And the reason I really wanted to do a shoot there is because they had this thing about women and the stigma of women not being in flying. And you know, it's something that we don't, as parents in the way back, didn't ask their children to be pilots, or it's always a stigma that women shouldn't be in those roles. So I stumbled across this amazing guest, and I found out she was in aviation, and her name is Gressard, and she is so fantastic to speak with. She is an author, she is a speaker, an entrepreneur, and an advocate of having women fly, especially girls, get into the flying field. Welcome, Sandrine. How are you?
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Suzy. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thanks for being on Empowered in Heels. I would love you to share your journey to our audience members.
So my journey started, well, like everybody else, I was born at some point, but at 5 years old, I actually had the amazing opportunity to sit on the lap of a pilot who was flying a float plane, and he was a friend of my mom's, and he took us for a ride, and then he allowed me to take the controls and said, do what you want. If you pull up on the controls, we're going to go near the sky, like up in the sky. And if you push down, we're going to go near the water. And so, of course, I pulled up because I wanted to fly like a bird. And that was like an ecstatic moment of my life. Unfortunately, I came from a very traditional French family from France. And flying was just not one of the things that girls do, right? So I was confronted by that really, really young. And my mom, what she wanted for me was to find a wealthy man and get married and have kids and take care of the family. And that's what she had in store for me. Of course, that's not what I had in store for myself. So years went by, and when I turned 18 years old, I actually was living in Spain by myself because I was working in the film industry. That was my first career, working on film sets. And I met a guy who was an instructor of paragliding on a film set. And so he taught me how to paraglide, and that was my first experience with flying. So paragliding is like, it looks like a parachute, but it's much longer. It's a rectangular parachute, and you basically jump off a cliff and you fly with this thing. And it was super exhilarating, and I did that for a while. Then my mom found out, and even though she was living in Canada and I was in Spain, she was like, you stop that right now or else I'm going to come and get you. And I knew she would, so I stopped. And then I had to fast forward until I was almost 40 years old to finally get my licenses to fly. So I've been flying now for eight and a half years. I've been flying gliders and powered airplanes.
That's amazing. I could not picture myself doing that. I would have to get someone to push me off. You know, at Wonderland, we have those jumping cable ones. Honestly, I would get up there, and then I would have to get someone to push me off, and then I would do. And then afterwards, I would try it again. Needed to, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you got started. And is that what gave you the pushing point? Is there a pushing point in your life that made you get into what you're doing today?
Well, there's several of them for sure. I think the major one would probably be the fact that as I was getting my licenses, as I was becoming a glider pilot, even back then when I was 18 getting my paraglider license, I was always the only girl amongst a bunch of guys. And hey, no offense, it's nice to be one of the boys, but it's also kind of like, you can't share the same things. There's the girls, we have a different way of dealing with emotions. We have a different way of dealing with stress. And so as I was going through my licenses this time around, like my glider license and then my powered license, it was like, why? I started wondering, not that I wasn't like, oh, sorry for myself. It was more like, why aren't there more women? And so I started doing some research, some really intense research. And I realized that it's not what we think. It's not what the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, it's a boys club and it's their fault. And yeah, there's a bit of that, but that's like 30, 40 years ago, it was like that. But today, that's not necessarily it. I mean, there's still the stereotypes and there's still the cliche comments, girls can't fly, they're too emotional and all that stuff, which is of course not true. But the real thing is, in my research, what I stumbled across was the fact that, men have 6 to 7 times more testosterone than we do. That's a lot of testosterone. We don't have that. And what does testosterone do? And I learned a lot in that research is that testosterone is that confidence booster. That testosterone gives you confidence. And so at one point, my flight instructor is a man who's now 76 years old, but when I was learning with him, he was 72. So actually now he's probably 77. But anyway, he said to me, I've never ever come across an overconfident female pilot of all the people I've taught, but I've always come across overconfident men pilots. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful. So, the pilots would say to him, why aren't you letting me solo? Why aren't you letting me go fly by myself? He says, you're not ready. You're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Whereas the girl, he'd say, okay, you're ready to solo. And she'd be like, I'm not ready. Yes, you are. Right? And that's the big difference. And so because aviation's been a male-dominated industry, the industry doesn't have the setup to support women for them to follow through and go to the end of it. See, a lot of women start aviation careers or start aviation education or start their licenses, but they don't follow through, not because they're not capable, but because they lack the support. And so in the last 5-6 years, there's been a huge change. And I've seen it like firsthand, because now we have Facebook groups, and we have associations that are much more active. And so because of this social media and the online presence, we're able to actually help each other, even if we've never met in real life. That didn't exist 5-6 years ago. It didn't. Even when I did my glider license in 2013, there were no groups, barely. They were not very active. You had to really dig deep to find them. Now there's so many support groups. It's amazing. And we're seeing a difference. And now we're seeing that in a lot of these aviation programs, the numbers used to be 4 or 5% of women. Now it's like 13-14%. So that, for me, the pushing point was, oh my God, I don't mind being all by myself, but it'd be really nice if there was more of us.
That's amazing. It's so true. I think sometimes it's that fear also, that fear factor. And even as you mentioned, 6 years ago, when I started as an entrepreneur, there was hardly nothing out there for women. And today we're so blessed that there's so much out there and so much support that we can get through the government and funding and grants, and that's available. So take advantage if you can right now. 10 years ago, 6 years ago, it was probably harder for us women who were taking that extra step and doing something different than the norm, right?
Right.
Supposed to be in a 9-to-5, take care of your kids, and that's about all, right? But now I think we've gained that knowledge and gain that expertise to push ourselves to the next level of life, because we deserve to live the best that we can, right? So I love your story. So tell me, has there been any downfalls with doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And actually the downfalls, they're constantly there, but that's also what shows you that if you keep pushing through, and if you keep believing, and if you keep working on your confidence level, no matter what comes your way, you're going to do this, right? And so I've had quite a few in my life. I think the biggest downfall for me wasn't really necessarily linked to aviation, but it was actually what triggered my desire to live fully the way I do now. And so in 2007, both my parents passed 2 months apart. And so that was a really big, that was a big slap in the face, because and the real reason is I had lost my dad for 23 years. I had finally found him again, and I was finally able to be in touch with him. He was living in Europe and me here, but at least we were able to be in touch for about 7.5 years, and then he died of a heart attack. And wow, for me that was really like a second slap in the face. That was like, but I lost him a first time, why do I have to lose him a second time? But I always say now, with the time that's gone by and the work I've done on myself, because it really it pushed me to want to work on myself and get a coach and really start developing who I am. And that's actually what triggered my desire to pursue my aviation dreams, to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams, to just push way beyond where I'd pushed before. And so I always say my parents passing was a difficult thing, but it's also a gift, because had I not lost my dad so abruptly, I wouldn't have pushed myself the way I have. So sometimes, your biggest strength comes from your biggest hardship. And I think that if people can realize that when they're going through an event, like right now, what we're going through, it's such an opportunity. There are so many opportunities right now, except we can sit there and look at, oh, but I can't do this and I can't do that, and and the government won't let me do this and all this stuff. Or we can look at, wait a minute, what can I do? What opportunity is this giving me? Like me in the last year, and we'll talk about this later on, but I've done so many things that I wouldn't have done had this not happened. Mm-hmm. So, there's always two ways to look at things, right? There's the front side and the back side, and you can always choose which way you're going to look at stuff. But for every negative looking situation, there's actually a really shiny side if you just turn it around.
I love that. That's so inspiring. And you know what? It's so funny, because I was never a salesperson when I was going through school and bio and whatever. But then when my grandmother died, she was like a sales galore person in Venezuela. Like, she had 3 stores, she had clothing. It was all related to clothing. And I remember when she died, that's when I started to have that spark in me to be like not a salesperson, but to have that energy to have my own business. So I can kind of relate with what you mentioned, because it was a really hard time in my life, because I was going through the separation and having my little guy. And it pushed me, because of that suffering, it pushed me through the next level, like yourself. So yeah, it's so amazing that we connected in that way. So with your downfalls, it pushed you to do what you're doing today. And I could see you're so passionate about it. And is it something that you do full time?
So what I'm doing full time, it's so funny. Every time somebody asks me what I do full time, I always have a hard time answering, because I think there's a lot of things that I do that end up making it all full time. I coach entrepreneurs, so that's one of my activities. I coach women who want to spread their wings and fly. So that's why I say, like, I coach entrepreneurs who don't necessarily want to become pilots or air traffic controllers or aircraft mechanics or any of those things, but who just want to spread their wings and fly and be their own boss and start their own business and really do their own thing. And then I also coach women and girls who want to become pilots. And I'm also a Young Eagle pilot with the EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association. And so they have a really cool program to take up kids, and then you give them their first flight certificate, you give them their logbook, and they get a free ground school course if they want to pursue their education. But at the end of the day, the whole idea behind everything I do is, how can I empower women? How can I help them? How can I support them? How can I give them that confidence booster that you can do this? You can do anything you set your heart on, and there is no I can't do this. There's no such thing as I can't. And once I saw, how on all the social media you get to see these quotes that are so nice, and the one that stuck with me the most so far is impossible means I'm possible. And I love that. I love that if you break down impossible, it actually means you can look at it that way, I'm possible. And so you are possible. Everything you want to be is possible. Now you got to choose a few things, because sometimes if you choose too many, you do none of them. But so I choose to fly, and I choose to empower women. And I'm also the marketing and communications coordinator for the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. And that's actually just happened a week ago. So I'm starting that in the next few days.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Wow, that's so well deserved. So I love how you love to empower women. And the way I stumbled across you is that I am not a techie person, and you're very techie knowledgeable, and you kind of went step by step, guided me through that. Like I always say, everyone has that niche that they're really good at. Well, technology is not my niche, and I am taking some courses and expanding in that area, because we have the time to do that now. So with today's message, if you have this time, use it wisely. Use it to gain your knowledge. It's so important to learn something every day and push yourself. Don't get that fear in front of you to stop to do what you really want to do. So is there any messages you can give to our audience with the pandemic that has gone through, and hopefully will be over soon? I hope. I'm crossing my fingers on that. It's like an important message that you can give everyone so that they can empower themselves today.
So I think the biggest message, and you touched on it a couple of seconds ago, is when you said that, keep learning and push yourself. The thing that I did to stay, I always say, the way I kept my sanity was to learn. I went full throttle learning, and I find that that's what keeps me focused. And the more you're focused, the less you have time to listen to all the noise out there, and the government noise and the whatever, regardless of how you view this whole pandemic. And we're not going to go into that, of course, but I just want to say, it doesn't matter how you see it. What matters is, are you being the pilot of your life? Are you being the person at the helm of your life? Because you're the one driving the boat. You're the one flying the airplane of your life. Like, your life is the airplane, it's the boat, it's the car, it's the motorcycle, whatever image works for you. But that's what you're driving. And you are the one responsible for creating that life of your dreams. And so whether there's a pandemic or no pandemic, whether there's a war or no war, What can you do every single day that's going to help you take one more step towards that dream of yours to make it reality? And that's what life is. And at least that's what it should be. We're here to come and play. We're here to come and have fun. Are you having fun? Right? And so even doing those steps of building a business, doing those steps of getting your licenses, doing those steps of becoming the best singer out there, whatever you do, whatever it is that you do, are you taking those little steps every day to be better at that? And so that's how I've gotten through the last year and a half. And so many amazing things have happened to me in this last year and a half. I'm completely flabbergasted because, you know, I'm almost ashamed to say it because everybody's complaining about the shit year they've had. And I'm going, well, actually, yeah, it's been challenging. I can't say it hasn't. I've had to, you know, we've all had to pivot on a dime and go like, oh, okay, I just, you know, the day after like March 13th, when the premier here in Quebec decided to lock down the entire, province, I was like, all my customers called me up and said, I can't afford your services anymore. I can't work with you anymore. All my aviation events for Girls Go Fly completely dropped. Like all my sponsors dropped me from 1 minute to the next. And I remember scratching my head going, great, I have two businesses that are not even related. They're not even in the same industry and they both flopped the same day. And I remember for like 2 days, I was kind of numb, you know, I was numb. I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I was like, okay, I'll just go for walks. And I started going for walks to just trying to figure it out. Like, what am I going to do with myself? Well, I'm good at reinventing myself. And you were talking about the techie side. Okay, well, I'm a good techie. So let me go get some courses so I can brush up on my skills because I haven't taken any courses in a few years and everything's evolved so fast. So I took courses on how to build sales funnels. I took a challenge on that. I took a challenge on how to build a course in 7 days. I did a bunch of stuff, but it was amazing because it kept me focused. And when you're hyper focused like that, first of all, things happen. The universe kind of puts people on your path for you, and then you're not worrying. And the less you worry, the more fun you have. And the more fun you have, the more you accomplish your dreams. And so that's the message I have for all of you. Just stop listening to the news. Just don't listen. Don't worry. Somebody will tell you what's going on, even if you're not listening. I'm always aware of everything that's going on, and I don't listen to news. So you don't have to either. And the less news you listen to, the more you're going to be able to focus on you. Because nobody will, if you don't focus on you and choose what your life is going to look like, somebody else will. Except their choice for you might not be what you want for you.
I love that. So got rid of the news. I don't have I have TV, I have Netflix, but that's it. And I have a code on it. My kids don't get to watch it without my code. But yeah, I couldn't read the news because it was just agitating us more, right? And the more we listen to it, the more it just sinks us down. So I love that message about that because less you pay attention to the outer world and focus on you build yourself more and you get more fulfillment from yourself than anyone else. And that's where
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
So love that message, of course. So has there been any shift in your business? Are you still doing your technology side? Are you still doing the aviation now today? I know you just got a promotion, which is a good hey.
So the techie side, I'm gonna let it peter out slowly because I'm gonna be doing it for COPA. So I want to be able to not stretch myself thin. And because COPA is so aviation, it's going to allow me to focus more again on aviation. So I have been doing, right now, I know I can't visit airports. And anyway, it's been winter here. So winter flying is kind of tougher. And people won't show up at an airport at -15 to go for a ride. It just doesn't happen. So it's like, okay, so flying is not really, I mean, I still go flying, but I don't take up people because it's just not as practical. But I'm still doing interviews. I'm still doing, I'm still posting information. There's lots of scholarships coming out right now. So I'm posting those to let my audience know that, hey, there's scholarships available. I mean, the scholarships are amazing. Every year now, there's about $1 million worth of scholarships for people who want to go get their aviation related licenses or education. I mean, that's pretty amazing. If you can get one of those and you get $10,000 knocked off of the cost of you getting a license, I'll take it, right? That's like, why not?
I think that has grown. I don't think that existed before, right? So see, these are opportunities that are knocking at people's doors, and you should take that fulfillment and take it on. And
Yeah.
I think fear just stops a lot of people of getting what they really want to do. And I could see you love flying. Honestly,
Yeah.
I see it in your eyes. Your eyes start to illuminate. So why you want to branch off to more that area and keep that.
And remember I was talking about hyper focus. Well, now with a position with an association that's what their reason of being is. La raison d'être of the COPA is supporting the freedom to fly. That's what they do. They help little airports stay open. They help airplane owners purchase their airplanes and not have a bad experience. That's what the COPA does. So for me, it was just such a logical, amazing fit that when it literally, when things are flowing, when I applied for the position on a Thursday night and I got hired the following Tuesday.
Wow.
That's how fast it went. So it was like, okay, it was obviously meant to be, right? And so, it really helps me focus because, as you can see, I define myself as a multi-potentialite. I have a lot of interests and a lot of passions, and if I don't kind of rein myself in, I do tend to do too many things, and then it kind of makes it, more difficult to accomplish them all. So now it's like I'm down to Girls Go Fly, COPA, and empowering women all the same, right? That's it. That's where it stops.
It's like the universe put everything together for you, right?
Yeah, and it was really funny.
Yes,
It was really funny because on last week we organized the 99s as a women's pilots association. It's an international association, and I'm the treasurer of the Montreal chapter. And we organized a trivia night. And Girls Go Fly, my organization, I was giving away one of the prizes. And then I have a partner. One of my partners is VIP Pilot, which is a center for pilot accessories and pilot books and stuff like that. And then COPA was was one of the partners of that evening that also gave away a prize. And it was so funny because at the beginning of the night, the girls from the chapter, they put this picture up on the screen saying, "We're so happy to have our 3 sponsors." And it had my logo, the logo of Girls Go Fly, the logo of COPA, and the logo of VIP. And I thought, this is my life. It was like this triangle of and I said to the girls, I thought, this is so funny. I said, my company, my partners, and now my employer, all in one slide. It just felt like, wow, really neat.
It's so amazing to see your vision into reality, which is really where your focus and goal was determined to get to. So I love how you did that. So can you provide a mission statement?
Yes. So the mission statement for me is really about, I want to see that 5.7% of women pilots, and the number of women air traffic controllers is something like I don't know, I can't remember what it is, but it's pretty low. And then the number of overall pilots, because so overall pilots is 5.7, but then airline pilots are like 7%. I want to see that number go to 25.
I love it.
My mission is to say, you know what? In any industry, doesn't matter. I'm talking about aviation, but whether it's aerospace, whether it's, but even the opposite too. Like, don't get me wrong. There's also the opposite. Why is there so few male nurses? Why are there so few male teachers in the primary school? So we need more balance. It's all about balance, and it's not about, I don't think it's as much. And that's when I wrote my book. I discovered that actually my mindset shifted as I wrote the book, because I did so much research. And then I realized it's not about gender. It's about bringing the strengths of both gender more balanced into our entire society, so that we can bring the strengths of both sides together. If you know this, right? If we have even a company that's in fashion that has 90% women, that's not good. It's not good. You want to get that male influence in there. You want to get the male, the masculine, the masculine strengths and traits into the mix. So in any industry, in any company, in any organization, when you have a good, nice, healthy balance, that's when you get the best out of everybody.
Love it.
And that's my mission, is to say, let's stop looking at gender for gender. let's boost the women, because the women, because of the lack of testosterone, they need it. Not because they're weak, not because they're stupid, not because they don't have what it takes. It's just they don't have that testosterone working for them. So let's boost them and then help them get to those, because we know that they're capable. We've seen it. We are all capable of everything. And men are capable of being sensitive, and men are capable of being good nurses. So let's just stop looking at the gender so much and just look at what it takes, and then help each gender get there. So we have more harmony.
Yeah, more of a balance and helping each other out, supporting each other is the main key, right? So if we work together, we can build that mountain. If we don't, we're pushing that mountain away. So it's never going to grow, right? So
Exactly.
Love it. And has it always been your background to be in flight, and is it just that experience with your family in France that pushed you to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, no, it wasn't for sure. It only started like I said, that flight when I was 5 years old did something, but then I forgot about it, and because of the influence of my family being so strong, it's interesting if you look at the timeline, and I don't think I did this consciously necessarily, or I didn't do it knowingly, but it's interesting how it took a few years after both my parents passed, and my grandfather, who was the really strong figure in my family, after he passed, for me to actually start living my life. So I don't think I was acutely aware that in the back of my head I was kind of not comfortable starting this whole aviation life while they were still around, because I think I was very afraid of getting told, you can't do this, you can't do that, because that's what I'd been told my whole life. I wanted to ride motorcycles. My mom saw me once on a scooter and she was like, you get off that thing right away. I was like, ugh. And the crazy thing is I had this great aunt who was a stunt woman. She actually still holds, she passed away many years ago, but she still holds the world record for the longest skydive. She skydove in 1956 at 38,000 feet. Wow. So yeah, and so I looked up to her like she was my role model, and I kept saying, "But Tata Coco, she's allowed to do it. Why can't I do it?" And they were like, "That's not the same thing." I was like, "Oh." So yeah, no, it hasn't always been part of my life. It's something that I finally, like I said, my parents passed, and then after that, I went through a really tough depression. For a while, because also at the time my husband at the time was suffering of deep depression. My son was 18 months old. I had my business, my training company, Jezebel Consulting Services at the time. So I was trying to carry all of this on one pair of shoulders, and that's when I thought, wait a minute, what do I want? And that's when I really started focusing on what do I want? What do I want out of this life? What do I want? To when I'm older and I look back, what do I want to look back on? Yeah. And that's when I started focusing on me.
That is amazing. I know sometimes we lose ourselves. And we should be looking to see what do we deserve, because we, as women, we give our lives to everyone else, and I do that all the time now. And we forget about us, and we really need to say, look, am I living the life I want to live? Today, can I say, if I died today, that I accomplished what I wanted to do and no regrets? Now, I could say to myself today, yes, I can, and I love my life, and if I could, I would have done it earlier. It took me a little bit longer to get here, but, sometimes it does that, right? Life, you never know what holds up to you, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we have to respect our rhythm, but we also have to push ourselves, like you were saying before. And so, in the end, it's all about putting you first. And putting you first, it's funny how I also saw another nice little quote the other day saying, "Selfish is not a dirty word." Okay, yeah. Being selfish is a good thing. Being egocentric, that's a whole other ballgame. But being selfish is a good thing. It means you're taking care of yourself. And in airplanes, they say put your mask on first before you put on your child's mask. Well, why is that? Because if you croak, you can't help them, right? So if you start getting dizzy and you lose consciousness, you're not going to be able to help that child. So you got to take care of you first. And it's the same thing in everyday life. And when my son was younger, I used to tell him, sometimes he would, like every kid, "Mommy, do this, mommy, mommy, mommy." And I used to say, you know what? Mommy needs her alone time right now. Mommy needs mommy time. Because when mommy gets mommy time, mommy's a happy mommy. And you want a happy mommy. Trust me, you want a happy mommy. Because when mommy's not happy, I start, being less nice. So you don't want me to be less nice. You want me to be nice. So give me this time. And so he'd be like, okay. And sometimes if I didn't take it, as he got older, he'd say, Mommy, you should be taking time for yourself. Right? So it's really about, learning to just put yourself first, not in a bad way, not in a I don't care about anybody else, but because we already have the tendency in our DNA as women to take care of everyone. Don't worry that next thing you know, you won't take care of anyone. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to have to just remind yourself, okay, I need some time for me. I need to go for a walk. I need to go for a bath. I want to go to the spa. Whatever works for you, but do it, because then you'll be satisfied. And when you're happy and satisfied, then you're happy to give to others.
That's
right?
Yes. Today I heard a really great message, and she said, be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to thinking what life is, and be grateful, right? Because sometimes we get rid of the gratitude of just being able to wake up and breathe and go out for a walk. There are other people that don't have half of what you can do, or they don't have the arms, they don't have the sight, they don't have the eyes to see, the hearing to hear, the taste buds. So we are so grateful for so many things, and we take it for granted. And I think COVID has pushed us to really realize and focus what's important to us. And because we were such in a busy rush all the time, work, money, have so many things, that we forgot that real focus of what life is, right? So I love your message. So is there any daily routines or rituals that you do that you can share to us?
So yeah, it's exactly in line with what you just said. I now have it in my agenda that first thing in the morning, it's me time. It's my me time for 45 minutes. It's first thing in the morning, and I try to get up earlier than everybody else just so I can get my coffee and read something that I like to read. There's one book you were just talking about being grateful, and I'd like to put it out there for anyone who's interested. There's a book that's only available online on Amazon in a electronic book. It's been written by Janet Atwood. It's called Marrow Up, M-A-R-O Up, and it's about Wahei Takeda, who was a Japanese multi-billionaire, but he was also the happiest man in Japan. Apart from being the richest man in Japan, and he passed away a few years ago, he was the happiest man, and he did 150 thank yous a day. He would thank everything all day long, every day. And he was saying the more you're in gratitude, the more you're going to feel good, and you're going to attract positive things to you. So I do that now every morning. I write in my agenda. I start in the day and I have a bullet journal. I write in it every morning, and I write sentences that come to me about what I'm grateful for. And then I do a workout, and I always end my shower with cold water. And that was from the Wim Hof method to help my immune system, but also it just triggers a lot of creativity and clarity. This thing with cold water, I don't know what it is exactly. I haven't studied the details of it, but I know that every day, if I skip a day and I don't do the cold shower thing, I'm not as invigorated. I'm not as feeling like yeah, I got this kind of and so the cold water does that to you. And it took me a long time to do that because my soul mom, because my mom passed, but I have this woman who's like my mom for me, and when she came here 2 summers in a row, and unfortunately because of COVID she hasn't been able to come back, but she used to finish her shower always with like freezing cold water, and I was like, how do you do that? And she says, oh, it's so nice. I was like, oh, and I couldn't even fathom the idea. And then I started this in March when COVID hit. I watched this Wim Hof, what he was explaining, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And I tried progressively, and now I just go cold water. The first 2 seconds are like, oh, you want to die, but you just hang in there and you do just a minute of cold water, and you get out of there, and man, you're ready to just move mountains. It really makes a difference. And then I start my day. So when I've gotten that done, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a perfect person. There's days where I don't even respect that own ritual, and then I go because I'm angry with myself that I didn't do it, because of course that day doesn't go as well as the other days. Yeah. So the next day you fix it.
Yeah, it's getting up and pushing yourself forward, You know, we're all going to have those days that it's like a child. They fall, they get up. And we just need to think that through and say, okay, you know what? We're not perfect. We were put on earth with errors and we're never going to be perfect. And it's a matter of trying again and getting up. Don't stay where you can't get up. So
and it's a matter of what you were saying of being kind to yourself. So when that day you didn't do what you said you were going to do and you skipped 2 things out of 4 and whatever, instead of going, I'm such an idiot, and like, you know, that negative voice just starts beating you up. It's like, whoa, okay, I had an off day. Big deal. I had an off day. Tomorrow's a different day. I can switch tonight. I can still change it up for myself. I just became aware that I'm having an off day and I didn't do what I know is good for me. So how can I make it better for the rest of the day? And, you know, sometimes it's just having that internal conversation and taking 3 deep breaths and going, okay, how am I going to make the next hour better? The next 10 minutes better? And if you work in little increments of like these, like, I'm not talking baby steps, I'm talking micro steps. If you do micro steps towards feeling better, you're going to get there. But if you're like, oh, well, that's it, the day's over, you know, I messed it up, then you're like, no, what are you doing? You're just being so hard on yourself. And, you know, sometimes you have to think like of how your little bad voice speaks to you. And imagine if you heard a mom speak like that to her child, what would you think of that person?
So true. Yeah.
That would be like, what? She's an awful person, right?
Yeah. We're critics sometimes towards our own self. And if you do what you just mentioned, it would like, oh no, that wouldn't be, I would never tell my kids that, right? So
exactly. So why are we telling this to ourselves, right? So it's really an awareness thing. Once the awareness sets in, the change is right after.
Yeah. And I liked how you pinpointed that your son said, Mom, you need a break. Because it's amazing that our kids take our example. So if we're in a negative frame or always talking bad about ourselves, they take that image and they start it on them. So that is why it's so important to be a positive influencer and be careful of what you say, because we are setting an example for our next generation. So I love how you put everything together so nicely. Is there something fun you do? So we know you like cold water. No, and actually a lot of leaders do that. And you know what? I had someone tell me that too, and I do it. And my kids think I'm crazy, but I don't know. It just ignites my day. So I do it.
Yeah, and Wim Hof talks about the fact that our capillary, you know, the capillary veins in our body, they represent something like 23,000 kilometers of veins, and when you take cold showers, it activates all of that and helps the circulation. So even for blood circulation, but for your immunity, you know, especially with what's going on now, you don't want to catch COVID, you don't want to catch any illnesses. Man, take cold showers every day. Your immunity is going to go, like, your immune system's going to get so much better. So that, but no, what do I do for fun? Well, of course I fly. That's fun. I scuba dive. And you asked me one thing, and I wrote, I can't just choose one, it's impossible, but I fly, I scuba dive, and I sing. I love to sing. I actually was part of a duo for a while, but of course, with COVID, we're not getting any gigs right now, but I sing. So that's another thing I do that I love to do is I love singing, and I love scuba diving whenever I can. It's funny how I like to be underwater or in the sky, but I mean, I still like to be on the ground, but.
So do you do deep dive or just the shallow?
Oh no, I scuba dive with the I do reg dives and with the bottle and everything. Yeah.
And then as well, I used to be an instructor for the shallow, and then I dived, and it freaked me out. I will never do it again.
I like it.
Dark, right?
Yeah.
So I think I saw one of the stingrays.
Yeah.
Oh. It went by. It just panicked me.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Every time I see a stingray, I'm like following it down. Then we swam with we dove with nurse sharks in Cozumel, and at one point there was like 7 of them following us around. It was really neat. But they don't. I mean, it's funny. I say that really neat, and I can imagine people going, "They're neat. Is she crazy?" No, but nurse sharks won't do anything to you. No. But even most sharks won't. You know, they're not out there to start eating people. Actually, they think we taste awful. So it's really I love diving. There's something very similar between flying and diving, believe it or not. And the two of them require lots of technical knowledge. You got to know what you're doing, right? And the two of them give you this feeling of just like a zen feeling when I'm, especially if I'm flying the glider that has no engine. There's no sound, right? All you hear is you hear the wind, and when you're diving, all you hear is your breathing.
Yeah.
So there's something very calming and just feeling really peaceful about flying the glider and scuba diving, and even flying a powered airplane. Even though you have the engine and there's noise and stuff, there's something very peaceful about just being in the sky and having a different view on things. And same thing in the water, right? You're underneath. You see this life that you never get to see. Mm-hmm. You see the corals. You see a bunch of little tiny animals in the water that you didn't even know existed, and you get to see how this life lives in this environment that's 800 times denser than air. There's a whole different, we did some reg diving. I did my reg diving specialty, and we discovered these little fish that their whole lives they live in an area this big. Wow. That's it. They just live, and they swim in eight figures. Yeah. And that's all they do. They live there with their offspring, and then when the parent dies, the offspring find another little guy that comes around. And I mean, it's crazy. It's completely mind-boggling that you have some living organisms that have a life that's so different, and you wouldn't get to see that unless you went 90 or 100 feet down.
That's amazing. Yeah, I give you kudos to that. That really freaked me out. So, and then because you're not supposed to change in different pressures right away. And I do know scuba diving on the shallow end, yes, but when that came in, it was just my fear. And then from there, I never did it again. So, and gliding, whoa, I tell you, you'd have to pull me out. Or even parachute. I want to do it, I really do, but they would have to pull me out. Like that's the only way I would do it with someone. But anyways, that's to come. So I love those fun aspects of you. And where can we find you?
So basically anything that says Girls Go Fly, if you type Girls Go Fly in Facebook, I have a Facebook page. If you type Girls Go Fly, the handle in Instagram, I'm there. I have a website, girlsgofly.com. So I'm pretty much everywhere. I have a podcast as well. It's called Success Instigators, the podcast. It's in English, and I have a French one, Instigateur de Succès. So that's basically where you can find me, and soon you'll be finding me at COPA, Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. So that's starting in about a week or so.
And you also have a book coming out.
Yeah. And I have a book coming out called Dirigeons comme des femmes. So it's in French. Let's lead as women. That's what it's called, Dirigeons comme des femmes, and that's coming out any day now. I'm still waiting for the final okay from the publisher. So
you speak French fluently and Spanish, I found.
Yeah, I speak French and Spanish and English fluently, and then I can get by in Italian and Portuguese, and my German is pathetic.
Those are things that you're developing on. So what amazing traits you have. So I am so honored to have you on Empowered in Heels and empowering other women to get to the next level, because this show is all about that. I wanted to do something that have you pushing yourself to do something new, learn something new. We've got great messages today from Sandria. Oh my God,
Sandrine.
Sandrine.
Okay. My name is not easy in English. It's only easy in French.
Sandrine, it's very unique, which is a good thing, right? So Sandrine's powerful messages here. And if you ever wanted to get into flying, please connect with her. I truly recommend her. And you know what? If I ever did want to fly, I would go to her, because you could see that passion and that strive that she has. And she has this great connection to get you there. Because even with my technology skills, she got me to where I needed to get to. I was getting so frustrated because I got approved for a shop for maybe 6 months ago, and I kept on delaying it until I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. And she connected me, and I got it done. So you can get it done. That's your message, that you can get anything done. And if you want to fly, please connect with Sandrine. I hope I said that right. But thank you so much for being our guest on Empowered in Heels. You truly empowered me, empowered other women today throughout the world. because this channel's throughout the world with TV Chaar. And thank you for having me as your host, Suzy Tamasy. Please check out for us every Tuesday on Empowered in Heels. Thank you, Sandrine, for being my guest. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzy. Thank you so much.